Hey hockey fans, and welcome back. Today we're going to get into my NHL standing predictions for the upcoming season. Also, stay till the end, I'm going to do my NHL award predictions too. First we'll look at the Eastern Conference, and we'll start with the Atlantic Division. At the bottom of the Atlantic, I have the Buffalo Sabres. In previous years, I've had high hopes for the Buffalo Sabres, but they consistently keep underperforming. Next up, I have the Boston Bruins. Last season, the Boston Bruins traded away Brandon Carlo, Charlie Coyle, and their captain, Brad Marchand. This has me thinking that this team is going through a rebuild phase, but I think it's going to be a short-lived rebuild. Also, I know Jeremy Swayman had a down year last year. I expect him to bounce back this year. Coming in at 6, I have the team with the Iser plan, the Detroit Red Wings. Over the offseason, the Red Wings traded goalies with the Anaheim Ducks. That brought John Gibson to the Wings and sent out Peter Mrazek. But other than that trade, I don't see huge improvements to this team. On to number 5, I have the Montreal Canadiens. Last season, Montreal did make it into the playoffs, but I don't think their younger talent was up for the task. This year, I do think their young talent is ready to take a step forward. Unfortunately for the Montreal Canadiens, I think the Ottawa Senators are also ready to take a step. After revisiting Montreal and Ottawa playoff series, I think Ottawa performed better. They look like the more veteran team, and they look like they responded to their competition better than Montreal did. Also, the playoffs seem to wake up a little bit of something in Brady Tkachuk. I expect him to have a career year this year. Rounding out the top 3, I have the reigning back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. I think fully healthy, this team is debatably the best team in hockey right now. But unfortunately, Matthew Tkachuk is injured. And with the new LTIR restrictions, the Florida Panthers will not get the full cap benefit from Matthew Tkachuk. With Matthew Tkachuk's injury and them not getting the full cap benefit, I think this will lead to a slow start for the Florida Panthers. I do expect them to finish strong though. In a close race to first, I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to fall to second. I know they lost Mitch Marner this season, but they're gaining a healthy version of Austin Matthews. And some cap flexibility with John Tavares taking a discount. I worry that the Maple Leafs will have a little bit of a slow start as they adjust to not having Mitch Marner, but I think they'll ultimately be fine. Finally, taking first place in the Atlantic, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think if the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs do in fact have slow starts, and Tampa has a good start, they can pull away with the division this year. And I honestly don't see that being a problem with a top 3 goaltender in Vasilevsky and their high-flying offense being led by Kucherov. With that all said and done, let's get into who I think is going to make the playoffs. I think both wildcard teams are going to come out of the Atlantic, and it's going to be the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. Let's get into the Metro Division. At the bottom of the division, I unfortunately have the Pittsburgh Penguins. This was one of my favorite teams watching, including watching Sidney Crosby. Speaking of Crosby, I expect him to have another good year this year, but the team is in a transition period. The Crosby era is coming to an end, but I'm sure the next era of the Pittsburgh Penguins will be good. In 7th place, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is one of those predictions where I hope I'm wrong because I actually kind of like the team. Last year, I really thought they were going to clinch that last playoff spot. Unfortunately, they missed by 2 points. Now it's time for Adam Fantilli to get out there and prove me wrong. Next up, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. I think the addition of Trevor Zegras is very interesting. It seemed like Anaheim just kind of lost interest in him, and I think he lost interest in Anaheim. Now he's going to be reunited with one of his best friends in Jamie Drysdale. I honestly think that this could reawaken the confident side of Zegras that we've seen in years past. Also, Michkov looks very good. At number 5, I have the New York Islanders. Duran's time in Colorado was very injury prone, but when he was in the lineup, he put up points. I'm also very interested to see what Cal Ritchie does. I wasn't a huge fan of his play with the Avalanche, but I think he's going to be a great NHL player. They do have a great goaltender in Ilya Sorokin, and after trading away Nelson and Dobson, it's just hard seeing this team being better this year. Now we'll hop across the river and go to number 4, the New York Rangers. Last year, there were multiple reports of locker room turmoil between players and management. Players being forced into trades that they didn't want to be part of and stuff like that. But now with all that behind them, I think they're finally ready to move forward. I think they're going to rebound a little bit, but still ultimately end up missing the playoffs. Now on to my top 3 Metro teams that are playoff locks. We'll start at number 3 with the Washington Capitals. Ovechkin broke Gretzky's all-time goal record last year and is set to be the first player to hit 900 goals. Chasing down history led this team to a first place finish last year. I think this year they returned to form a little bit. And second, I have the New Jersey Devils. Last season had an unfortunate end for the Devils as they were ridden with player injuries. Both Jack and Luke Hughes are reportedly healthy to start the season. I think if they get off to a hot start, they'll be in contention for first place in the Metro. But I do have Carolina taking first in the Metro. Carolina's been one of the most consistently good teams in the NHL. Unfortunately, they just don't know how to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. With that being said, I don't see much changing this year with them. I think the Carolina Hurricanes have one of the best shutdown defenders in Jacob Slavin. They got some impressive work done in the offseason with Ehlers, and it was also very impressive work by the Carolina Hurricanes on both Mikko Rantanen trades. That wraps up the Eastern Conference. Now we move on to the West. Let's start at the bottom of the Pacific. In 8th place, I have the San Jose Sharks. I think this year will be another developmental year for the Sharks' young talent. Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini both really impressed me last year, though. I can't wait to see what the future holds for this team. Next up, I have the Anaheim Ducks. I think this team is bound to be good soon, and they're just a little ahead of schedule of the Sharks. Plus, I really like their veterans with Gudas, Kreider, and Trouba. And in 6th place, I have the Seattle Kraken. After some rethinking, I think I'm going to switch the Anaheim Ducks and the Seattle Kraken. So the Ducks will move up to 6th, and the Seattle Kraken will move down to 7th. Alright, now on to the 7th place, the Seattle Kraken. This is a team that has the coolest looking jerseys in the league, but as a team, I'm not sure what they're doing. They don't really seem to be getting any better as a team. I think the next 3 teams will all be fighting for 3rd place in the Pacific Division. Coming up in 5th, I have the Calgary Flames. Calgary is another team that doesn't really seem to be getting better, but I do like their team better than Seattle's. And their goaltending situation is much better with Dustin Wolf. A couple points of the Calgary Flames, I think it will be the Vancouver Canucks. This is another team that had a shaky locker room last year, but it does seem like they got it figured out now. They've lost a little bit of their talent, but I think Quinn Hughes will be able to stabilize this team. Just squeaking into 3rd place in the Pacific Division, I have the LA Kings. The LA Kings offseason consisted of, well, we didn't like Perry on the Ducks. We didn't like him on Edmonton. Maybe we'll like him on our team. Joking aside, he does add some much needed depth to that team. Also, if Kemper's play holds up, they should be fine. I think these last 2 teams are a step above all the others in their division. In 2nd, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm very excited to see how Mitch Marner performs in a Vegas Golden Knights sweater. I think Eichel could bring out a whole different side of Marner. Running away with the division, I have the Edmonton Oilers. After suffering another Stanley Cup final defeat by the Florida Panthers, I think this team is absolutely going to set the league on fire. They have 2 of the top 3 best offensive players in the league, so who would be surprised by it? And as crazy as it might be to say, I think both Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid have career years this year. Well, that wraps up my standing prediction for the Pacific Division, and I think only the top 3 teams are going to make it to the playoffs. Moving on to the Central Division, where we'll find out what 2 teams I have making the wild card. At the bottom of the Central, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody. I have the Chicago Blackhawks. I think Connor Bedard's going to have another great year this year. He just doesn't have the surrounding talent to help him. Next, I have the Nashville Predators. Last year, they had a shockingly bad season, and unfortunately, I don't see it being much different this year. However, that being said, I do think Stamkos will have a bounce back year this year. Maybe not scoring what he used to, but definitely scoring more. This next prediction, I think is going to come back to haunt me later, but in 6th place, I have the St. Louis Blues. This team just kind of seems like it's in a weird place right now. They don't have the talent to be cup contenders, but they're also too talented to be a bottom of the barrel team. I do think they need to focus more on developing their younger talent than trying to pursue the playoffs, but that's just me. Also, if there's any coach that can get a team to overperform, it's Jim Montgomery. Just look at how St. Louis finished last season. And you can't forget Bennington. Annoying in net, but also annoyingly good in net. That being said, he can single-handedly pull this team to a playoff spot. Taking the 2nd wildcard spot, I have the Utah Mammoth. 2nd year as a team, 1st year as a Utah Mammoth. I've really liked this team's talent pool for the last few years, and now with the new owners, I think they finally have the tools to be a good hockey team. This Utah Mammoth team reminds me a little bit of the 2023 Kraken team, and I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs and do some damage. Taking the 1st wildcard spot, I have the Minnesota Wild. This year, I think the Minnesota Wild will be pushing a top 3 spot in the Central Division, but will ultimately fall to 4th. One big change for the Wild this year is their $15 million in dead cap is only going to be about $3 million this year. Kaprizov was set to have a career last year. Unfortunately, he got injured, but I think this year he will continue that and have a career year. Coming in at number 3, I have the Winnipeg Jets. This was last season's President Trophy winner, but this offseason, they lost Ehlers. Adam Lowry is expected to miss the beginning of the season. I think they'll get off to a slow start, but Hellebuck will stabilize the team, at least for the regular season. In 2nd, I have the Dallas Stars. Last season, Dallas swung big at the trade deadline and landed Mikko Rantanen. This came at a cost of Dallas losing some of their depth. I'm also very intrigued to see what their new coach does. But with both Mikko and Ottinger, I think the Stars are going to be just fine. Finally, taking the 1st spot in the the Central Division, I have the Colorado Avalanche. After multiple years of starting the season with multiple injuries and having slow starts, I think the Avs are finally ready to have a hot start. Almost everyone, including Landeskog, is healthy. They finally signed a 2C in Brock Nelson, and the goalie tandem looks half decent this year. And for the first time in quite a while, I think the Colorado Avalanche are deeper than Dallas. That wraps up my standing predictions for this upcoming NHL season. Next, I'll be doing my prediction for the NHL awards. And if you're an Avs fan, I'm going to do a prediction video that is strictly Avs related. Let's start off with the Selke Trophy. This trophy is awarded to the best defensive forward. I think this year it's going to be Austin Matthews. His defensive play in the Four Nations was great as long as you ignored the game-winning goal, but he's also sneakily good at takeaways and blocks. This might seem far-fetched to some people, but he actually did almost win the trophy in the 2024 season. He ended up third in voting. Next up, we'll do the Rocket Richard Trophy. This trophy is awarded to the player who scores the most goals. And once again, I think this is going to be Austin Matthews. And this would make him the first player ever to win both the Selke and the Rocket in the same year. He's already won the Rocket 3 times, so that's not a far-fetched idea either. And last year, he faced a lot of injury issues. I expect him to have a big return to form this year. On to the Art Ross Trophy. This trophy is awarded to whichever player scores the most points. And that's right, you guessed it. I got Austin. Nah, I'm just kidding. I think this one will return to Connor McDavid. The last 2 seasons, McDavid has been injured and has still ended up top 6 in scoring. In these last 2 years, he's gotten so close to the cup just to get beat by Florida. And those 2 losses in the Stanley Cup final, I think is going to cause McDavid and Draisaitl to absolutely light the league up this year. Let's move on to the Calder Trophy. This trophy is awarded to Rookie of the Year. I think this one is going to go to Zeev Bouillem. This one has a lot to do with it's just in the right spot at the right time. I think the Minnesota Wild are set to become a much better team this year. I think if he can have an offensive impact, he has a good shot at winning the Calder. Now to the Vezina Trophy. This trophy is awarded to the best goaltender in the league. This year, I think Vasi's going to take it back. Last year, Vasilevsky had a Vezina caliber year. Unfortunately, Hellebuck's was better. As long as he plays like he did last year, I think this is an easy reclaim for Vasi. We'll move on to the Norris Trophy. The Norris Trophy is awarded to the best defenseman in the league. And I have Cale Makar being the first back-to-back Norris Trophy winner since 2008. This year, I think Makar's going to hit 100 points, along with lead one of the league's top defensive units. Now for the final player award, the Hart Trophy. The Hart Trophy is awarded to the most valuable player to his team. And I think this year, it's finally going to go to Kucherov. The last 2 seasons, Kucherov has had Hart-worthy seasons. Unfortunately, he's lost out in the voting. Both of those years, he also took home the Art Ross. Now we'll do the last regular season award. The President's Trophy is awarded to whichever team has the best regular season record. And this year, I have the President's Trophy curse going to the Carolina Hurricanes. They have a really good defense as always, and their depth looks much better this year. Let's move out of the NHL and talk about who's going to win the gold medal at the Olympics. I had the United States winning the four-nation face-off, and I'm going to have the United States winning the gold medal. After an upset at the four-nation face-off, I think the USA is going to take their lessons and come out strong. I expect them to be much more prepared for the Olympics. Now back to the NHL, we'll talk about Stanley Cup predictions. This year, I think the Vegas Golden Knights are going to take it, with Mitch Marner winning the Conn Smythe. I really do think we'll see a different Mitch Marner when he plays for the Vegas Golden Knights.